What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 149 of Value Town. I'm ChanManV, and joining me today are not Jackie and Allie because they are still out of town at Seed Story right now. But instead, we've got these two great guys, Purple and Justsaiyan, joining us today. What's up, fellas?
How's it going, ChanMan?
Good, man. Good.
49 episodes?
Yeah. Why you sound so shocked? No, 149. I said 149.
No, that is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and that's after like being gone for a year too. We should really be at 200 right now, but you know that year just disappeared on me, and no, but
I mean,
anyways.
this is episode 1, right, of the new expansion?
Yes. No. Well, we've talked about obviously pre-expansion stuff, but this is the first episode where we actually talk about it when it's out in the wild now. So. Yeah, this is legit takes on the cards and decks and everything. So definitely perfect timing. But
I'm ready to make some bold statements and be completely wrong.
Yep, we've already done that in the previous episode, so why not continue it into the actual expansion?
Let's start to be wrong about that. Priest is good, Corridor Creeper is good, and Warlock beats all aggro. So
wait, so how many days have you been playing it, Purple?
This is like 2 and 12 hours in with playing with the new cards, and I think I figured it out.
Okay, 12 hours. We're gonna see if Purple's prediction after 12 hours is right on. Like in a few weeks, it's gonna be pretty interesting. But no, really great time having these guys on too, because the HCT 2018 details came out, just all the changes that they've made to the competitive system. So we'll be talking about that for sure, and then of course we're gonna get into cards, decks, all that good stuff. Q&A at the end, as always. Go ahead and send those questions to valuetown@chanmanv.tv if you got any. But yeah, let's just kind of kick things off with maybe just like what you guys have been doing this week. Purple, I know you've been in China forever now, so getting back home, how are you feeling after that long trip?
I'm very jet lagged. It's about bedtime already now. It's 4 p.m.
Yeah.
So when I sleep now.
All right, let's hope it's not a resident sleeper episode here.
It's actually pretty good that like I'm doing this show because like it's forcing me to stay awake, so I'm not like going to bed at 4 p.m.
All right, that's good.
Waking up at 2.
Hopefully, you have enough spicy discussion to keep you totally alert and things.
You're gonna have to say some dumb stuff, saying.
Oh my God. I'm sure I'll say something that will trigger you. I don't know. Saiyan, how about you, man? I know you've been streaming a lot, doing some cool stuff.
Yeah, I got started a little bit late in this expansion. The wildfires hit like California, so the first 2 days were like, you missed all the crazy stuff the first 2 days because that meta shifts back and forth like every hour or two. But I think I got to the point where I've caught up. Now we're playing some meme decks, and it's almost exactly like Purple said. Priest is still, in a very dominant fashion.
Well,
Go
ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say I sat down for like a solid hour yesterday after the HCT stuff was released, and I read everything word by word, and it looks very promising so far.
All right, yeah, definitely good stuff. I mean, speaking of which, why don't we just jump into that? Just HCT 2018, big post came out, and I mean, there's like a PDF and all this stuff. I mean, if you don't know anything about the HCT. I think it's probably going to be best for you to like listen to, shows and podcasts and people just like they give you a summary of it because it's really hard to understand if you don't have a good base for it, like right off the bat. But that's kind of what we're here to do. So I think the probably the most proper way to look at it is really maybe how it compares to 2017. And let's just talk about like the differences. And I think that might be a little bit better than really going into just step by step what's different because it can just get so convoluted that it can get crazy. So I think so first thing, let's just start kind of at the bottom actually. So teams. So teams are actually going to be taken into account this HCT 2018, which never has been anything like in HCT. We've never had any kind of team aspect to the actual tour. So this year, the top 10 teams will be rewarded, and that's after each of the seasons. So we're still going to have the 3 seasons. There's not going to be summer, winter, and spring and all that stuff. There's just going to be 3 seasons. Each of them will be 4 months, except for the first one will be 3 months. But after each of these seasons, the team standings will they'll have the team standings and then cash rewards for each of the teams. The teams will be represented by 3 players per team now. So I think one thing to clarify with the teams is that it's going to be global. So we're talking like, the NA teams versus Chinese teams, or just the Asian teams and the European teams all mixed up together. And otherwise we wouldn't have enough teams. So, what's y'all's take on that? Does this help, getting more teams into Hearthstone and really encouraging that aspect of it? Because that's always been a big criticism to the Hearthstone ecosystem.
Put on saying
it's rewarding because now teams have more incentive to pick up these players, but at the same time, as a team, now you have to commit to picking up 3 players who you think altogether can compete well. So it's not just like you can pick up 1 player and kind of him be a superstar anymore. You do have to have the team focus, right? And it is the team thing, and that might be a little bit harder for new orgs to branch off to, because picking up 1, I think, is already a huge decision, but picking up 3 in total, that's tough. So a lot of the existing orgs are very happy, but if you're excited as an org about Hearthstone, it is maybe a larger commitment for you.
Mm-hmm. I don't like the fact that we're starting talking about the announcement, because I think like the announcement is like absolute nuts. It's great. It's like the best thing that's ever happened to competitive Hearthstone. Mm-hmm. It's like, for me, it's like I hate starting here about the team thing, because like the team thing is like the thing I'm least excited for.
That's the
portion of the announcement I'm most disappointed about.
Because we can start with the bad and then we can go into the good.
Isn't, because for a team, it's just like money. If you break it down, it's what, 7.5K from first, ranging to $750 for the 10th best team. So like, first, maybe the team can make a tiny bit of money off its players, sure, but like the other teams, it can be seen as a subsidy. But it does, basically Blizzard subsidizing the esports division and teams in general, but it doesn't like actually get sponsors for Hearthstone necessarily on its own. It doesn't solve the problem of like system being self-sustaining. It's just kind of like patching it and hoping teams can stay in Hearthstone.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
like how many times has the Planet Odd Boys moved in like the last year? Like, or orgs being like probably like, and like as of next year, I'd be surprised if there's like a better team than Planet Odd. Mm-hmm. Like with Zigzo, Surrender, and Hoy. Like, it's just an insane group, and like that group can't get like, has not been able to like exactly sustain a home for a while.
Yeah.
And it's nice that they're helping the teams. It's just I wish they had used like I guess like some of the funds from like other portion of the announcements, like individuals, and shifted it that way, rather than have the distribution of funds they have currently. But
yeah,
obviously they put some thought behind it, obviously.
Yeah.
I think the argument against that is like, because like you gave the Six of Hoy Surrender example from Planet Odd, right? They had such a hard time maintaining a team throughout the years because they're not big streamers. They're not providing content for the team. So when you end up paying so much money for top-notch players and they're not providing content, you're going to be like a little disappointed in that. But now that Blizzard has this team reward system, the emphasis has been shifted from content creation to winning as a team. Mm-hmm. And there's no 3 that I know better that do that, right? Sixo, Surrender, Hoy are definitely like one of the top teams. They're probably going to be taking home, that 7.5 to 5,000 most of these seasons. I think that's worth a lot to an org, especially if the team thing gives the orgs some exposure as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with both of you guys. I mean, Purple, I think that this is more like a step 1 type of thing as to trying to somehow integrate teams into the whole picture of esports for Hearthstone. So, this isn't going to be the end-all solution. And you're right. Like, the biggest thing about teams not being in Hearthstone is that they just don't see where the ROI is, for actually putting some kind of investment into the competitive players. And how does that pay back, right? That's why there's only sponsors for like streamers and things like that. So, this paying the players, the players are the ones that are actually getting the prize, right? Not actually the teams. It is a little bit of an odd thing. Maybe it'll eventually get to the point where they're paying the teams, the orgs themselves, so it gives them incentive to pick up the players, because that's actually a different type of, structure in itself too. But I do like the fact that they're starting to at least do something. I mean, that is actually great. And like you said, saying it's de-emphasizing streamers and kind of adding it back to the competitive aspect to it. But okay, so anyways, get the team lists as a weird place to start, I know, but it was like the biggest difference. That's kind of why I wanted to start there. But let's get more into just the actual point systems and how things are going to be broken up. So the biggest change really is that they have this 3-tiered system now, which let me just kind of show it to you here. So there's like actual point targets, and then there's basically benefits for being in these tiers. So we actually have a 3-star tier, a 2-star tier, and a 1-star, and they're calling it masters: 3-star masters, 2-star masters, and 1-star master. So and the way it's broken down is it's 200 points to qualify for the 3-star one, 175 to qualify for 2-star, and then 150 for 1-star. And some of the benefits that you get for being like the very, very top tiers, you get an auto invite into seasonal playoffs. You get 2,500,000 appearance bonuses for 3 events a season. So I guess you can choose which events you want an appearance bonus for, I'm assuming. And then you get like some cool swag, as well as an invite to some online exclusive tournaments that, they will only include these kind of people. And then 2-stars, you don't get that auto invite to playoffs, but you get the others. And then 1-star, you don't get the bonuses for appearances. So, it's just different. This is definitely incentivizing people to, obviously do well each season, but also do well over time. Like, this is actually rewarding people who've done well, like the last 3 seasons, because this point total is based on the last 3 HCT seasons. 200 points, is that a lot? I mean, I guess I guess it's not that much. Like, Purple, how many points do you have, like, the last 3 seasons? Like, I don't even know. 200
is like 200 is like hard. It's like you're top 25ing every season, and then you're gonna need like a finish at a major somewhere in your 3 months, basically.
Right. Okay.
Like, it's pretty demanding, but it's exactly what you would expect for like, it's like, you just can't give like 2.5K to like everyone, right?
yeah. Exactly.
It doesn't work like that. They're not just printing money. So I think it's like somewhat reasonable. It's like high in terms of points, but that can definitely be adjusted a bit down. It's just like a target, right? But like, I think it's pretty reasonable for like top tier player to get top 25 in 1 major finish in 3 months.
Okay, yeah, Saying, what do you think, man? Just overall, just these 3 tiers.
It's really a call to arms to competitive players to be more consistent. I think I want to call this like an RG buffer, where like, you could qualify for all the things and all the challengers and all the playoffs and things like that, and you do poorly. But if you've been consistent and you get to these points at least, then you're still making a good amount, just as a guarantee from Blizzard, right?
I think the big difference in that is like so how the jump system was currently was like, you go to prelims, you finish 9th, you get $100. You top 8 it, you get like 5K. You top 4 it, you're basically making 50 to 250. Just like a 2-match difference is like,
it's a huge drop off.
It's break of career, basically.
Yeah, I mean, let me show you the
just introducing this like tier where it's just like, hey, you go to prelims, you finish 9th, they give you like $4,000, and you're just like, go further, but like, at least I can sustain myself as a professional in this field.
Yeah, I mean, like,
right? It's just like,
yeah, I mean, I just put up the graphic for just the differences in the prizes, and I mean, you can see there's a drastic difference. I mean, with the
line was obviously like $100, and it was like
it's the Saiyan line, right?
It's very hard to keep playing the game when you're making $100 per prelims, man.
Yeah, so there's a huge difference there. Now you'll be making, the difference between 8th and 9th, for instance, is only $250. So, I mean, that's huge. 4,500 to 4,250 versus 100 is, pretty drastic. I don't know if you can still make a living necessarily doing it, but we're getting closer at least.
You got to have it not be like $100. Like this is a huge jump.
Yeah.
You definitely should not make like a lot of money to show up and lose, right?
Sure.
Like, as winners in general, Hearthstone's so different. Like, you show up to a tournament, you should get more money if you win. It shouldn't be like you show up and be like rich for finishing like 32nd place. Like that's like
yeah. And these are the playoffs. These are the seasonal playoffs, by the way, guys. This isn't like the the World Championships. Clearly, because there's not as many players listed here in the World Championships. But this is great. I mean, definitely distribution of the prize pool I think was great. I think there's just generally more money, right, just in the whole thing. So but kind of getting back to the master, just the whole tiered system. Yeah, I mean, do you like the benefits? You think the benefits are? I mean, the biggest thing is just getting the auto invite, right? Just being just into the seasonal playoffs. But what about all the other stuff?
I like me some swag.
All right, what kind of swag are you hoping for, man? It's not card backs, right?
If it's a card back and I qualified and get like the most amount of points, I'm gonna ask for a refund for all the packs I ever bought.
Okay. So yeah, what kind of swag are you hoping for, man?
Shirts, sweaters, come on, like.
Okay, all right.
A voice line from the innkeeper or something like that would be kind of cool.
Voice line from the innkeeper. Okay, all right. That could definitely be cool. But yeah, so 2,500. I mean, for appearances, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's kind of interesting they list at least 3 events. So, I guess in case you can't attend all the events, so they kind of put a number on that one. But
when they're saying 3 events, like it sounds like to be traveling a lot next year, which is very scary.
Yeah,
it's like very hard to get your top 25 finish and like travel once a month, basically, which is like what that's saying, right? To get that tier, is that actually like sustainable long run? Yeah, maybe, maybe not, because like to guarantee your top 25, you're grinding 2, if not 3 servers, right?
Yeah,
you got to go to like say DreamHack, you're gone for like 5-6 days, travel day off. You definitely need a day off when you get home. Like you're burnt, you're spent. You don't. So like you combine the 2, and you're starting to look to have like a busy month. A busy month is fine, but like if you hit this and you're grinding 3 servers and going to a major once a month, 11 straight months, you're gonna burn out somewhere in the middle of that, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
The time consumption is insane for this.
Yeah, so in terms of paying for flights, I mean, is that going to be covered, or I mean, do you have to be on a team, and that's going to cover all these things, or I'm unclear about that.
It's going to be very hard to be. It's very hard to be independent and like pay for your own flights and like.
Okay.
ROI basically.
Yeah, so basically this top tier, it's not going to be covered. You're going to have to cover your own travel and things like that. Yeah, same.
You can use the 2.5K to pay for it, right?
Yeah, maybe you might have to actually.
I mean, if the point system is like anywhere comparable to the one that we have had this year, just to put it into perspective, I think Muzzy had about 144 points, and that wouldn't even put him into the first level. So Zalay was like second with like 121. Obviously, there's going to be a few more opportunities with the tour system.
Yeah.
But I looked at the ladder system rating, and it didn't change too much. You're maybe going to get a few more out of ladder because 2 through 25, you're guaranteed 15, and finishing first is just an extra point. So now the point system probably went up by maybe 1.1, 1.2. Even then, Muzzy would only be maybe in the second tier at best. He wouldn't be getting the third tier bonuses yet. So it does look like the years are going to be busier. They're doing 2-3 tour stops per season and things like that. So Purple's right. You're going to have to travel more. It's going to be busy. But I think maybe on the bright side, because it's such a busy year, you get so many events to go to, it really allows a player to show his or her consistency, which in terms of getting fans to notice you and to cement yourself, you got to be consistent. And if you're going to all these events and you continue doing well and you continue being at these 3-star, 2-star levels, people are eventually going to notice. And I think they've kind of brought that to light with the system because you get a higher chance to travel to all these events, and they're all going to be Blizzard run. So they'll help you build the storyline, of course, through that if they take notice as well.
Yeah, and I think it also helps the whole team thing too. It's like when teams now know where to actually look for players, and there is this kind of consistent way of categorizing them, then they can just pick from that pool, right? They can pick up players up. They're willing to maybe invest in the competitive players like that. I'm showing kind of the point distribution here, guys. The tour stops are like the majors, I guess, what people have called them in the past. So they'll be DreamHacks and what other tournament will it be? Is it DreamHack and it's another example of a tour stop?
From what I know, there's supposed to be 33 majors from the information I got, basically.
Wow. Okay.
Which 4 are DreamHack.
That's a
and
lot
29
of
are not.
majors. Wow. Okay. All right. So
Like,
that's a ton of tournaments.
Yeah, it's a ton of tournaments. Not 100% when we were actually going to get like year perspective is, but there's going to be a lot of tournaments.
Okay, so I guess comparing that to like what we had last year. So last year, one of the big complaints was just like having to grind online cups and trying to get points any way you can, right? One of the differences too this year is that the online cups and Tavern Hero, that whole just way of getting into the HCT, that's going to actually be separated into something that they're calling the Challenger division, which if you have made the playoffs for any of the HCT seasons in the last 3 seasons, then you cannot participate in this Challengers program. So it's kind of like separating out, I guess the top players can't just go and come and get some additional points this way. This is really for folks that, have been having trouble, really qualifying for any of the playoffs in the past. So they are separating that, but I think in terms of creating like this grinding, instead they've added all these tour stops instead, or sounds like they've added like all these majors instead. So yeah, how do you guys feel about that? Like traveling more versus grinding online cups? I mean, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of that trade-off, even though the points are obviously weighted more on the events than they are like these online cups were.
It's like pick your poison, right? Like online cups are just the worst. People are just like, people are going to scout you and are going to change their decks. And God bless, if you want to win one of these, you got to change your decks, cheat a bit, and your opponent.
Right.
Right. But like that whole experience is just like not a lot of fun. Like traveling a whole bunch constantly. I mean, if you really like traveling, God bless, but that's not me. It takes a toll on your body. It's just like fatiguing. It's hard in its own way. At least like when you go there, you're not going to get scammed by the admins, hopefully. Well, like in the Open Cup, you're just guaranteed to get scammed.
Yeah, there's obviously been a lot
more integrity, to put it that way, right?
Sure. There's definitely been some instances of definitely some shady organizers. But I mean, hopefully that's getting better. I mean, they're cracking down on people like that too. I'm hoping they're vetting it a little bit more, at least which of these online cups are people organizing the online cups, and that will be less of an incident.
The majors are like DreamHack, like they're not without flaw. They make mistakes. Like there's like articles on like Reddit where it's just like someone should have been top 16. They failed at math and like knocked out someone that should have been knocked out. But they're not like, they're trying their best and they are trying to have like a fair tournament. So whereas like that the tournament is trying to be fair and there's integrity to it. That's really all you can ask for.
So with these majors, guys, I mean, are there any majors that are only specific to a certain region, or are they just like fair game for everybody? Do you know?
Well, the tour stops specifically from Blizzard, right, are going to be like kind of a global trip around the world, right?
Okay.
They're trying to do tour stops in different regions. So yeah, it's going to be easier when the tour stops are near you, but professional players might be, I guess they painted a different picture. They're like, you get to travel across the world while playing Hearthstone. Purple's like, I want to stay home. Traveling is exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it can get old pretty fast if you're back and forth every week. So
that's my fireplace right there. I like hanging out around here in pants very often.
Pull up a chair. Exactly. One good thing though, like given that they have all these stops now, is that at least they're point targets now, right? Like they're very clear, distinct targets. Even just for within each season, there's that 45 point target now. That in the past it was just like top. What was it? Tops 60. What was that? What was the actual cut? It was like top 64. I forget what it was.
64-ish, yeah.
Yeah. So
and like where happens basically.
Right. It was a moving target basically.
But it was really funny when Crane missed out by 1 point.
Yeah, real funny, dude. But, yeah, so that
I remember being in that spot, and people were like, "No, you'll hold. Don't go for top 10." I was like, Like, not gonna do the whole crane thing.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot less risky now, right? Because now that you know it's gonna be 45, it won't be like Asia you need 17, Europe you need like 24. Like that's such a huge difference. That's an extra 25-30% to tack onto your point total.
Right.
The end of the season is going to involve a lot of camping because of there's no point differential between like 2 and 25, for example, right? So there's just like no encouragement for people to actually play.
Yeah, and if you can see the differentiation. Like literally, it's 1 point difference between rank 1 and 2 through 25.
For 1 point, I can't see too many people trying to be a hero and going for it, right? Like
it seems.
It doesn't seem obviously, right, like, though. From 26 to 25, that's a huge jump.
Yeah.
I would have put, like, just give, like, the number 1 guy, like, 4 extra points so that people try.
Yeah, I mean, the point breakdown actually does seem a little strange to me. I don't know why. Like,
big jumps in there. There really are big jumps in there.
Like, I mean, 3 points is, I guess 3 points is a lot. Like that kind of jump.
It's huge compared for, like, when you compare it to what your ladder rank is, right? From being 49th to 51st, that's 3 points, right? Like that's a whole lot. Like that's
definitely
over like 15 minutes.
At least the top 100 is getting a decent amount of points, though. That's definitely good. Top 200, that's definitely more than it was before too. I mean, it's definitely
there's way more ladder points in this format, right?
Yeah. But again, the cutoffs are higher though. The average before was what, like in that 20 range. I don't know, what was the average for the 3 seasons, you think? Like 20 something maybe? In the past.
I mean, I was able to play like on NA, I was able to get all my points in 5 weeks. It is not very competitive over here on NA.
Okay. I don't know. Saying, what's the average? Like, I know you were keeping really close track of it.
The average has been between like 18 to 20.
Yeah. Okay.
Most of the time, we're just a little bit above APAC region, but both of us are just in no comparison to Europe, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, like Europe's terrible.
Yeah, it's way higher, definitely. But still, this 45 is definitely much higher. So I mean, you're gonna have to go. The ladder points definitely help, but you're still gonna have to go out and get some more points to really.
You need 45 points in the period, right? So that's like it's just 3 top 25s, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, 3 top 25s. I guess some people do that pretty often. There definitely are a handful, maybe.
Top 25 is not hard for a top tier player, right?
But you could be less consistent than that. If you're between 51 and 100, you could have 3 top 100 finishes, and win a tour stop and still not make it, right? 42 points, that would be where you're at.
Yeah.
God, I feel like winning a tour stop should be huge, but I guess not. I guess I mean, like you said, it's not enough. Like the ladder plays such a huge role, and it's
16, right? If you win a major, it's like finishing rank 1. I don't know.
Yeah. Which one's harder? I mean, I think
there's people like Orange who's gonna be like figure out how to play ladder. Is like there's like a lot of players who just like Orange who just play tournaments and don't really ladder.
Yeah.
Like obviously in the system to be in it, you gotta do both. You definitely gotta do both.
Yeah,
like
it's gonna be. I mean,
it's very risky to like not get any points from not ladder and be like the 3rd month just like go for top 25. It's like there's variance in the game. Maybe you just don't get the meta game on that one day and you just get outplayed a bit and make some mistakes and like super risky to like try to go for 3 top 25s without like any additional points.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing too, guys, is the last call is gone. And the top point getter will automatically get an invite to World Championships, which that's cool. Definitely, I feel like they're already headed that direction. So, but all other top point getters for the year will receive cash prizes too, even though they don't get a chance to go to the actual World Championships. So, a little bit more support there. That's definitely good. It was always really. I mean, it was before it was like the RDU spot, right? Basically, he was the best example of just getting screwed every year. So at least people in that boat who's performed really, really well the entire year will get something out of it. But yeah, overall, this is definitely an improvement. I mean, are you guys happy with this, or still would like to see more? I mean, like, what would you like to see more if you would like to see additional changes?
I think the last call should have a higher prize pool.
Okay.
I think it's like yes, you get to an invite to Worlds if you win, and you get like I think 8,000 or something,
Hmm.
and then if you're second, it's 6,000, 4,000, 2,000, right? But the real kicker there is if you're first, you go to Worlds, and that's worth so much money. But if not, like if you okay, so you go to Worlds, you're guaranteed like another 30,000 something, right? So first place is practically saying you get 40K plus a lot of exposure. Second
Hmm.
place is just 6,000, right? Like you're basing the cutoff off of first getting 8,000, but you're not calculating the fact that first place is getting the Worlds, right? Like that's such a huge deal.
Yeah.
You're just saying, oh, what makes second place 6,000? I think it should be first place gets 8,000, all the world stuff. Second place should be like 25,000, or maybe a little bit less than that. That might be too much, but I
Oh
mean,
wow. Okay.
you still feel
80K.
really bumped out, right? Being second
Yeah, that's a
compared to
good point.
first.
Yeah. Just the
Worlds
odd.
is like an 80K EV, right? It's $1 million prize pool for like 16 players.
Right,
It's
right.
like it's yeah. When one person gets 6 and one person gets entered into the 80K EV tournament, that's quite a freaking jump.
Well, I mean, you can make an
Yeah.
argument there just shouldn't be a prize pool for being last call, right? You just get to go to Worlds. That's it, right? And that's great. That's like your prize for it. Yeah, and then everything else should just go to the rest of the guys. Yeah,
I think 20,000 was too low. I thought it was too high at first, but maybe second should be like 30 something. If first is literally just going to be probably 80,000.
Well, that's about what it's worth, right?
Right.
Is that an
right.
average or what is
Plus
the?
exposure, 16 plus whatever the hell you're gonna call exposure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
There's
that's a good
shitload.
point. Okay, so that can be increased. Anything else you guys would like to see?
With the last
Or like-
structure or
Or just in general with HCT, like any.
Blizzard is throwing some bank at it. It's just,
Oh, clearly.
This-
I
this-
mean,
God, this is just good. I think it's just like either play right, and now it's like a matter of like the orgs doing something. Like there's only so much like they need like the orgs to step in and do something too.
yeah,
Oh.
that's a good point. Like, I don't know how you do that though. Like, how are we
What,
gonna get?
what you got to do is card backs. You got to have team card backs. A Tempo Storm card back, a Gamer's Origin card back. Because you guys are saying that the orgs weren't getting enough because the players getting paid for the team thing. Well, maybe they need the top 3 teams to have card backs in the game for a little while, so they can maybe fuel some money for the orgs as well.
Okay, I need to get like a survey on this because I need to see who actually cares about their card back. Like, really cares about their card back because you barely even get to see your card back. Like,
You
when you're
don't
playing
like
the game.
super care about your card back, but like it's like pick your champion in these events where it's just like it's not necessarily about like getting 3 packs, like 3 packs and 3 packs, right? It's about showing your support for something.
Yeah,
The same thing for orgs, showing your support for orgs. That's worth a whole lot.
yeah, but showing your support for orgs is like, the whole light and dark thing. You could actually impact the event, with the light and dark thing. But I don't know, showing your support. There has to be something built into like if people use your card back, then something about this team improves.
Well, okay, let's put it this way, right? If like my favorite player in the whole world is Justsaiyan, and my favorite team in the whole world is Tempo Storm, and there's an option to buy for $1.99 the Tempo Storm card back, I'm probably going to buy the Tempo Storm card back for $1.99. Like, of course, it just makes sense.
And I get to draw an extra card at the start of my turn.
That would be awesome if we did something like that. Oh my god, it's like captured.
Yeah, like
captured flag.
that system would be great, right?
It's a passive. It's like a freaking relic. That sort of thing. That'd be amazing.
Dungeon runs, the world championship.
I know, exactly. It totally affects the design of it. Anyways, that's definitely kudos to Blizzard for making these changes, pretty big, significant changes from 2017. And if you kind of look 2 years back, like to 2016, oh my god, we've come like crazy long ways, right, from that.
Dude,
So
when I made it to Worlds in 2015, I made $5,000. I made $10,000 from making world champion, and
Yeah.
5 from going to Worlds.
Yeah, feels bad, man.
It's come a long way.
Yeah. So excited for the players. Hopefully, we'll get a chance to see just a lot more, competitive players, just actual pro Hearthstone players. That's the real goal of all of this. So 2018 should be a big year for Hearthstone. Okay, some other bit of news here. Trinity Series won by the LOL boys, the Love You Lots guys, which we're I know we're all pretty good friends with Chalky Muzzy Zalay, and I guess I don't know, not too much to say about Trinity. Do you guys watch Trinity much this season? I mean, obviously you played in it, but like outside of that, did you guys enjoy Trinity this season?
Yeah, finals was a huge blowout.
Yeah,
Like
obviously.
just extend. I think they went, what was it, like 18-4 in the
Yeah,
end was their win rate.
yeah,
So
dominated.
That's
just
pretty good win rate.
I mean, Purple, you're no stranger to grinding. I know, like we prepped before, and like you're able to grind 12, 14 hours a day, especially when you're motivated. I think they brought that out in Chalky, they brought that out in Muzzy, Soleil, and it showed. Like they had so many tech choices, and they just had an idea of the meta that people didn't understand. I was in Burbank talking to them afterwards, and basically day one they knew that aggro druid would like hard beat their lineup, but they didn't ban druid. They banned warlock because they figured everyone else was so far behind they didn't even have aggro druid on the radar yet. And they were right. It was like it was J druid or his big druid. So like just taking a risk there because they could ban their anti aggro deck and warlock and priest. That actually just paid off for them in dividends day one too, because they just had the read at that point. And like going to finals, you could see them game one, they picked like aggro druid into the opponent's rogue, and they got the read there as well.
Yeah.
It's just like everywhere it just seemed like Team Love was outplaying people.
24 hours to figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
24 hours to figure out aggro druid's the nuts. I mean, there's one person who's gonna figure it out. That's probably Omega Zero.
Yeah.
That's the tournament I was playing in, so he wasn't there. So like, I think their play was safe.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw like the opposite, right? Like Virtus Pro and all these teams were bringing all these control decks, Dragon's Fury, Mage, things like that, and people were just ended up being so far off, like just the first few days.
Yeah. So here are the LOL the Love You Lots decks here. So we had like aggro druid, Face Hunter, Burn Mage, Murloc, Highlander Priest, of course, and then Tempo Rogue. Oh, and then Zulok. So all very tempo-based, kind of aggressive type of decks, except for the Priest. So
the only thing they really missed on is like, I mean, Control Warlock is like 14 times better of a deck than Zoo right now.
Okay.
That's really the only miss in the lineup, probably.
Right, because they brought the Zulok instead of Control Lock. Like if you took out the Priest and another deck that's anti-aggressive, it would just come down to like the aggro druid mirror, because everything else you just kind of get stopped by it.
Yeah.
I mean,
potentially Zulok can beat it, but
regardless of like strategy, it's just like Fuck is S tier in the current meta game.
What was that? Like you broke up there for a second.
Warlock is just S tier. It's just
Control Warlock. Yeah, right now.
The power level of that deck right now is only second to Rozaka's Priest.
Right. And for those of you wondering what we're talking, I mean, just in terms of Trinity, like they actually had some of the new cards. That's why we're talking about people trying to figure out, the meta in such a short period of time. So, Corridor Creeper obviously was an MVP in this tournament, and it's just really good card, which we'll talk about in a second. But just Control Lock is, I think, something we'll be talking about also too. I've been getting a chance to play a lot of it, and it's super fun and powerful. But anyways, congrats to those guys. I mean, those guys are still, well, actually Muzzy got signed by Tempo Storm, obviously.
Did no one actually figure out? Did no one in that tournament actually have Control Warlock? I didn't actually get a chance to watch the Trinity finals.
Virtus Pro was actually also a pretty good build. They were doing lackeys and void lords only, and just being extremely anti-aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think they were beaten out by the Secret Mage, and that was like one of the decks that isn't affected by it too much. The burn is just so fast.
Yeah.
Judging by it, like the Control Warlock could have just like swept Team LOL, right? Like.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
I was talking to some of the people going to see story. I was just like, hey, so what do you do about Priest and Control Warlock? You gotta ban Priest, but then like you're just gonna get 3-0'd by Control Warlock half the time. So what the hell do you do about that? So then it's just like, well, you bring Quest Mage or Bird Mage or some kind of like combo druid. You need something special to snipe the Warlock. It's like your standard ladder aggro deck. It just loses to the 3/9 dude. Like
The 3/9 dude. Yeah, it's too good. Definitely too good. But yeah, let's get into talk. Let's just talk about some of the the new, obviously, Kobold and Catacombs cards and decks here. Obviously, this is week 1 of the expansion. And then why don't we jump into meta, and then we'll talk about dungeon runs in a second here. But I think you guys were alluding to some of the powerful decks already, and I feel like there's like two kind of buckets, maybe a little bit heavier on the control, but there's a discussion just whether tempo, decks are really the dominant deck right now, or whether it's like control decks are the dominant deck right now. So I don't know. We might even have a split here between the two of you guys. Want to get your thoughts? Like, which one do you think is really the type of archetype to play on the ladder right now? Yeah, I'll have you start.
So I think overall, like control has got to be extremely dominant, but it's also very polarizing because if you're playing Warlock, your only real bad matchup is like a Warlock mirror that's a little bit greedier than you, or it's going to be the Rizakis Priest matchup, right? So, but in those cases, the greedier Warlock tends to win just because there's no way you kill each other before fatigue, and they have Rin before you, or if you don't even run Rin, it's just an auto win for them. And Rizakis Priest just tends to beat you out because you can never really pressure them. They always have, the emergency button, play the Psychic Scream, start all over again, right?
Right.
So on the upside, though, your aggro decks against Control Warlock just get completely blown out. You're probably 80% plus against almost every aggressive deck out there. So you get this position where like you're either winning or losing just by queuing up. You know exactly from the start of the matchup how it's going to go. And that's something in Hearthstone that I don't like too much when decks become this polarizing, and then the meta is like, okay, rock, paper, scissors, style again, right?
Right.
I want to point out, though, the one with the Doom Guards, the one where you play a bunch of Doom Guards, and that one just beats Priest, too.
Wait, which one is that? Wait, which one is that? Like
Cube Umbra deck where you just basically you finish with a 25 damage combo of just Doom Guard the face. And actually, I don't think that one loses to Priest too badly, so like...
Oh man, I need to see this one. I don't think I've seen this deck. Wow. Umbra?
I think that one really? I think that one goes 50-50 against Priest.
Holy sucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, ChanManV, I think we linked you 2 decks.
Okay, let me
the
take
Umbra
that.
Warlock that Purple's talking
Oh,
about.
there it is. Okay.
And a combo druid that's good against both the Priest and the Warlock.
Okay, let me bring these up. Oh my god, this is crazy. All right. All right, Umbra.
But what Sang was saying was absolutely true. It's just that like the N'Zoth variant, I think, beats the Doomguard variant because you can just like taunt it out. So there's like a Warlock meta within the Warlock meta basically going on ladder at the moment.
Yeah, but that's no fun. I mean, it's like that's no fun when it's just like the mirror that's the only thing that can compete against it. In a lot of cases. So I
was watching that like Raynad video you linked me before we started the show, and he's talking about Corridor Creeper and how it's too strong for patches, which snowballs and I think like that video is like already outdated. It's like been a week, and like a week ago what Raynad was saying was like, yeah, this is absolutely true. Corridor Creeper is like absolutely retarded. It's just like the best card ever. But now it's just like, no, Priest just beats all of aggro because it's Rizakis Priest. And then Warlock beats all of aggro because you cheese out a Void Lord and you got the file. So, like...
Yeah, I mean, you got removal for days.
Creeper is like... I don't think Corridor Creeper is like that good. It's good in the sense of like when you're playing like a quest, your third deck's going to have to win a game. And your third deck can't be Warlock or Priest, basically. And that deck's going to have Corridor Creeper and patches.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have to win the mirror and whoever draws Corridor Creeper is going to win. So it's like, I think the meta is just already defined. It's just like Priest is going to win, and then Warlock's going to win, and then you're going to play your shitty third deck into each other, and whoever draws Corridor Creeper is...
I think you could see the stats on that super early on, like the first 2-3 days of the expansion. We were looking up stats on HS Replay on how Corridor Creeper was performing, and against every class except for Priest, if you played on turn 3 or 4, your win rate skyrocketed to like 59-60% plus. But against Priest, even when you played on turn 3 or 4, there's still like 42% chance to win. Matter. It didn't shift it at all. Maybe
no, it did, saying you have a non-0% chance of beating Priest now because you play Corridor Creeper.
Wow, it shifted from 0 to 40 plus. That's actually pretty good.
That's an amazing card, man. If you can actually change it that much. But yeah, so I put this deck up here. So yeah, talk about. So we got cubes in this deck. We've got Umbra in this deck. We've got all kinds of goodies in this deck, man. Let's talk about this.
Basically, you just want a power cycle. You're basically playing like it's kind of similar to like Leroy Faceless Power Whelming, right? It's one of those decks until they're dead, basically. And you finish. Basically, you equip the weapon once you get your combo pieces. You play the Umbra first. Well, you pull the Doomguard with the weapon. You play the Umbra. You cube it, or you attack for 5. You cube the Doomguard, which gives you another one on Battlecry, and then at the end you end up dark packing the cube for 2 extra, and it ends up doing 25 damage, while leaving a giant ass board behind. It's like even if it only does 25 and they're at 5 life, they still have to kill 4 Doomguards of 3/4 and a 3/4.
Okay.
And if they can manage to do that, if they can manage to do that, you can just play Gul'dan and get 4 more back.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Or 5 more back.
Oh my god! Wow, that's
you
really strong.
Yeah, and you're not actually running any like dead cards in the deck. Basically, it's a very like clean list. There's just like hacking that you're not allowed to play as Voidwalker because of the 5 mana 2/2 guy that recruits your demons. So like the only problem is like you don't have like that taunt on 1 and 3. That's like the only weakness of the deck. So like
you could throw one in a 3 if you wanted to, but yeah.
You can throw in like Tar Creepers or Stonehills probably. Prince Alram is a huge blow card.
Yeah.
Absolutely nuts because the Void Lord just never freaking dies. So like once you cheese your Void Lord, aggro can sometimes chew through it, and then you just like play just 12 more health with stats over 4 minions.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Then the Prince is.
It happens consistently, and sometimes against control, you just copy a cube and with 2 Doomguards in it, and then you just have a 3/3 that repops 2 Doomguards as Death Rattle, and you can like just Gul'dan ping it out to get 2 more Doomguards. It's like that. Really greedy, and like if you're dying to aggro, which if you want to go from like 80% to 100%, you can play Stonehill Defender or Tar Creeper.
Right.
Yeah, but the Prince is so flexible because like if you don't have the exact combo in hand, but you've equipped weapon and you pulled out Doomguard, you can just copy that, so you get an extra Doomguard or 2 once you play Gul'dan, and that just guarantees more burst damage.
Oh man, yeah, that sounds.
And you can use it on your opponent stuff. Like there's just something you can do, right? It's a 3 mana faceless, and there's like no really like sick 3 mana card you really want, anyways. Like.
Oh, that sounds cool, man. So just for those of you listening, like on iTunes or whatever, it's a double Dark Pack, double Kobold Librarian, double Mistress of Mixtures, and then double Coil too, and Defile. There's a Blood Mage Thalness in here, Tainted Zealot, Prince Taldarum, and Hellfire. 2 Hellfires, 2 Amethysts. What is that? Umbra, 2 cubes, 2 Doomguards, 2 lackeys, the weapon, the skull, and Siphon's Soul, Twisting Nether, 2 Void Lords, and Gul'dan. So yeah, definitely try this out. I think we might do this for Deck of the Week this week, guys. So I'll add this to the Patreon page too. This looks like a lot of fun. Haven't got a chance to try this out. Yeah.
I think the most
underrated. Exciting. There's another deck coming up too.
Oh, is there? Okay, so we're gonna talk about this Druid deck too that Sane's got here, which let's bring that up too. Oh my gosh, so is this an aggro Druid?
Well, this is the Druid deck that I think beats up on Priest and Warlock very, very easily. And I saw Frozen online. I immediately linked it to him because this is a kind of deck like Frozen kind of created Big Druid. It's a
big Druid. Oh yeah, it's a big Druid. Okay, got it.
It's like a meme kind of Druid list that's incredibly good against control decks.
Meme. Okay, so let's find the memes here. All right, we got Moonfires. We've got Jungle Giant. All right, there's the meme already. Growth, Wild Growth, Wrath, Blossom, Branch Paths. All right, cool. We got Disciple, Oaken, Swipe. What is that? Fate Spinner? Yeah. Fate Spinner, Ixlid, Nourish, Arakoa, Spreading Plague, Creepers, Alistraza, Malagus, Coon, and Ultimate Infestation. Oh my god. Okay, there's a lot of crap in here. Okay.
When your cards cost 0, you can really kill them with a Malagus.
Yeah.
I think
Thanks for that educational lesson there.
This deck needs 2 copies of Spreading Plague.
Yeah, I could.
That's like.
All right,
I haven't passed it. I just know you need 2 copies of Spreading Plague in Druid because that's just how you play Druid.
All right, so let's talk about man, shit,
It's
where do I
powerful,
even
though.
start? God, so Cursed Disciple.
It's
I don't
got the
think I've
double
seen
mech.
that. I don't think I've seen that in anything.
Dude, right?
What was that?
The Disciple procs the quest twice for you.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
So-
the card's absolutely
wow.
of
Yeah,
them.
that's true.
Your quest by turn 6, and then you can just like start firing off, right?
Yeah, that's true. That makes total sense. Actually, that was built specifically for the quest, right? Branching paths, like we're like what kind of scenarios have you seen with that? I mean, it's obviously very versatile, right, and what you can do with it. But what have you used it mostly for?
Well, if you need it for stall, you can heal up for 12 on the turn before like your UI or something. Like let's say you've already played Barnabas, it's like turn 9, and
Yeah.
you just need to survive until your UI turn. It's extremely good.
Right.
If you're looking for more combo pieces, because you have so much draw in the deck, after you get Barnabas out, you just draw, look for your Khan, look for your Malagos, and just kill them afterwards. It's very consistent in getting the remaining minions from your deck.
You never like +1 attack with this deck, maybe on the spring, like once in a lifetime, but like
Right.
Against aggro at some point, maybe if you get Plague in that out, yeah.
like obviously the drawing aspect of that card is like overcosted, right? Like draw 2, cost 3, but like
Right.
gain 12 health, like 5. Like there's that gains 5 and that for 1 mana, and that never saw play. It's much more efficient at it. But like when a card gives you above 10 health, it just starts being playable. It's just like it's just like Healbot is 11, right? 3/3 body plus 8. This card is insane because above that threshold of like health turning into tempo effectively.
Right.
At some point, you just get enough health, and that health just becomes tempo, because that just means you don't have to interact with board, and you can just go through draw steps or development steps of big ass minions, and that it gives you so much health.
Yeah. It's the versatility.
So-
I think a lot of people underrated this. Like, I think when they were doing reviews of this card, just because, no specific thing is just worth that for. It's really just the flexibility altogether, like having the different combos that really leads to like immense value, I think. For this
I
card.
haven't tested like a whole bunch, but like when I look at this card and I compare it with Savage Roar and like Aggro Druid, right?
Right.
I want this card because sometimes Savage Roar is a dead card, and I want to draw 2 cards. Like in that story, like I never really want the gain 6 option, right? But like more, I'm definitely playing this card over Savage Roar because like I can turn it into something else. The flexibility is just insane. It's just I think where you're going to use all 3 options very consistently, but there's 2 options, which is like draw a card and like either health or attack, which are going to be used in 2 archetypes. So this card can just see play in like all of the archetypes of Druid.
Wait, so in an archetype where you would choose, or right now that Savage War is even an option, you would play this card over Savage War, really? Like in an aggro?
Sometimes Savage Roar is just a dead card.
I understand that. It's just okay. I think I don't know. It'd be interesting to see if people. I don't know. Saying you feel the same way about that? I feel like there are people that disagree with you there. But
I think Purple's logic behind it is just like as a blowout, Savage War isn't even really played on 3, right? Like you need to develop the board turns 1 through 3, and sometimes on 4 you kill them with Savage War. Well, Branching Paths would do the same. And even if it's like your only option to roar on 4, Branching Paths could do the same and leave your minions buff later on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the buffs are actually
But there's also
permanent
like
too.
board states where you don't want to develop, say, into Frost Nova, where drawing becomes very relevant.
Yeah.
There's exceptions with like living mana on how your mana is going to turn out, where Savage Roar is obviously going to end up being a lot better.
Okay.
So that would be like the only downside is the living mana.
The living mana direction. Yeah, but there's just going to be like gives you is just like it's probably worth it. Like, I'm saying this in full confidence without having played a single time with the card yet.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk about Xlid, because that's something we talked about last week. Xlid, and I think a lot of people think of it more in terms of like an aggro druid, or maybe even some mid-range-ish type of druid, but not in this particular case, where this is more of a biggish, even combo-y kind of looking druid with Malgus there. So Ixlid, what are some big plays that you've had with Ixlid that are just like, wow, those are game ending, basically?
Ixalan Malagos ends the game. You can easily deal 30 even without it.
Okay, okay.
Don't
Um,
say.
Yeah.
Don't say
Okay,
something.
that was an obvious
Plus
one.
10 spell power.
Yeah.
You end the game.
Okay, well, okay. So you can like nourish, and then if Ixalan costs 5 in your hand, and you pull like the Arakoa, or you get some quarter creepers after Barnabas is out already,
Mhm.
it just helps you either like finish the quest if the quarter creeper is cheap, or later on you can build like a defensive board against aggro with like Arakoas and things like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah, Ixlid is. I mean, if you get it out early, right, it's not going to be the easiest thing to kill. So, yeah, man, that'd be crazy. You get a full turn with Ixlid. Oh man, that'd be
Well, I thought
extreme.
for 5 mana, Ixalan is like a little underwhelming, but for 4 mana, Ixalan would have been pretty insane because the card design is 2/4. Start doubling your minions, and if that's doubling your minions behind taunts, and they can't deal with the Ixalan behind those taunts, you're just losing the game because Ixalan can steamroll just one turn after it's been played.
Fans who like card decks basically say when game if doesn't die tend to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
This is just like start with like Fandral, right? When Fandral was printed and you left the Fandral on the board, you could scoop, right? Between the nourishes, the Raven Idols, the Power of the Wilds, the living roots, I think. I don't know. That part is just like, yeah, sure, it's like a little below stated for what you want to be playing, but like any card that just like when doesn't die, just wins game on spot, amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
Somewhat of an example of this. There's a whole bunch of these that are without yeah.
Well, we had one with like Flappy Bird, right? And Flappy Bird was a pretty good example of that too. But I think this one might be worse. Like this one can be crazy, especially when you're talking about Druid that can ramp. So
I think that's why they were so hesitant on making this like 4 mana because a 5 mana 2/4, you're looking at it like evaluating that line. Yeah, it's not very impressive at all, and you can't ever really play it on curve. Just too weak to die. But if they made it 4 mana, the amount of 6 mana taunts or 5 mana plays that you could do on turn 9 with Druid ramping up would just be too fast. So I think 5 mana was reasonable, but it kind of nerfed it to the point where like it's finding its spot in this deck because oftentimes your minions are free.
On 9 is a great example. It's just like if you just play 2 Druid the Claws of Charge. This like the card starts being viable in aggro. And like Beast Druid, like
that's a good point.
5, I think at 5 it's borderline just too strong already for what it is.
There's got to be more ways to abuse it, like for sure. Yeah, like the Claw is definitely a great example. But
this card being good is terrible for the game in the long run.
Can you imagine if Innervate was still like ramp 2, like ramp 2 right now? You could get that super early, and then just like be building upon it just right from there. Get 2 Fandrals, get 2 whatever, right? It'd be crazy.
I do not miss Innervate whatsoever. Innervate whatsoever.
That'd be insane. Yeah. Okay. So, any other cards you guys have been just kind of interesting, or those are definitely 2 of the decks that are really cool, and hopefully a lot of people listening will play it. But any particular cards kind of stand out to you this week?
Well, my favorite card of the set is Call to Arms.
Wow,
and
that's interesting. Okay,
and it is I think in a really theoretically in tournaments where you can ban Warlock because Bulletin actually just consistently beats Priest because Priest cannot deny a Bulletin from drawing its entire deck by turn 9. And let me tell you what, all my shitty 1-drop, my 17 1-drop army, 30 damage against your Priest deck by turn.
Well, so for those that might not know what a Bulletin is, or by the way, Call to Arms, guys, a 4 mana, recruit 3 minions that are cost 2 or less. What's a Bulletin for just some folks that don't know what it is?
Bulletin is a deck that runs somewhere between like 16 and 21 2-drops. Almost nothing more expensive than that. And they try to kill people with Sunkeeper Terram eventually.
Yeah, so
anything higher than the lower curve is just like burst damage, right? It's like Chargers, Leroy, Blessing of Kings, weapon damage.
Right.
So basically, the Bulletin has been a deck that has like, I mean, when I was playing my first tournaments, made appearances, and more powerful as set come because at first we only had Divine Favor, and what ends up happening when you only have Divine Favor is that like a solid like 40% of games probably. I don't actually know the math exactly, but 40% of games, let's just say, because you don't find your Divine Favor, just kind of gas yourself and you don't have enough to finish the job. Cool. Next, they introduced Recruit to Arms, the draw 3/1 drops, right? Mm-hmm. Consistency, and instead of running out of gas 40% of games, you're running out of gas like 20% of games. And now you add Call to Arms, and you're just so consistently getting your entire deck by turn 9. It's draw all 30 cards by turn 9 at this point. It's because draw synergizing with draw, making Bold, and actually one of the most powerful decks in the game.
Yeah, this card's way better than like the previous draws. This actually puts stuff on the board. So this is
synergizes together. No, it's just the consistency of being able to play all 30 cards by turn 9. In terms of your mana curve, you actually you have to math it out that you actually have perfect mana from 1 to 9, and you should be able to play every single card basically. Wow. And that's just how you build the deck right now.
Right.
It just works, and I've seen the popular lists are running Direwolf Alpha and Knife Juggler. I think that's just wrong. I think you just run Prince because Call to Arms and Prince is some of the dumbest thing I've ever seen. The game's over. The game's just over.
It's like for the longest time I've been hoping that this type of paladin would eventually become strong, and there's always little elements that are added, like you were saying. And even when Sunkeeper came out, just like, oh yeah, we're getting closer, right? We're getting closer.
Yeah,
after they took
extra
away
tool.
Yeah. I mean, they took away Taskmaster, but yeah, I mean not Taskmaster, but
popular list is definitely wrong because whenever you have the 2 wolves, the 2 jugglers, and a bit more top end, like I mathed it out basically, your mana curve becomes impossible to play, and you actually just never want the game to go to turn 11, so you actually just want it to be lower anyways. It's to a point in a Bulletin where Snow Flipper Penguin is not out of the question as a card in the deck. It's
okay. That's a little crazy, man. that's pretty awesome. But saying you're going to say
the power level of the card is just so insane, right? Because you thin your deck of 3 of your cheaper minions, so your draws later on a little bit better. And not only does it thin it, it puts them into play for you. So small time recruits would do the same effect, but they end up in your hand. So you've cheated out. Well, basically, Call to Arms is you wait a turn to play small time recruits, but you get the innervate because you play them all out at the same time. So absolutely insane power level, and it's played. I think Tice has been streaming a lot of Control Paladin. God bless him for trying that deck at the moment. But what he's been doing, he's been playing Plated Beetles. He's been playing Dirty Rats, and the ability to thin out those cheap minions from your deck is so strong because now your Control Paladin is consistently drawing better cards as well. They're not hitting their anti-aggro tools because Call to Arms does that for them. I mean, just the mechanic behind Call to Arms is so well designed and so powerful. It could fit into any Paladin archetype because of the sheer power level of the card.
Sounds like Tice is losing to 5 Doomguards in the face a lot if he's playing that
deck. yeah, I could definitely see that.
Well, that's Tice. You always know if you're playing Tice in a tournament, you're absolutely going to lose if you brought aggro.
That's true. He loves that control valley, man. They're just control decks in general. Let's see. Another card that may talk about. We talked about Corridor a little bit already, but what do you guys think of Master Oakheart? Because people were doing some silly things, at least in the first few days with him. But now that it's been a week, is this card actually good or not? I
was watching this guy called Justsaiyan, and he put some really bad cards in his deck. Really, really, really good. And when it works, people get upset.
Oh yeah, well 4 cards come down sometimes when, in addition to him, when the things go right.
So you play the 1 mana guy that makes your end of turn effects proc twice. You play the 2/4 dragon for 9, which summons a dragon. So he pulls those 2 guys, and then you pull 2 dragons. So you end up, if you play a 3 guy,
5 guys.
You can play up to 6 minions in the same turn, of which one is probably a 12/12.
Right.
And you can play this on turn 4.
That's how it works out. You ramp with the Blossom or the Growth, play the Nourish, and then coin out Oakheart the next turn, and the game's just over. It's brought Big Druid into such a high release state. It's absolutely insane. But outside of that, I mean, the idea is you cheat mana Druid, so you're gonna do crazy things with or without Oakheart. Oakheart has been played in Warlock though, and I think it's been pretty underwhelming. People have been trying to pull Void Lord only. as their 3 attack minion, things
totally
like that.
Okay on turn 9.
It's
like
okay.
if you're
I played
playing
it some.
Void Lord on turn 9, that's fine because Void Lord is a turn 6 play currently, right? Like
Right.
fair for Warlock, basically. It's only fair. It's only good in Druid because it's turn 4, right? Like
I like how we're talking about like 9, like 7, 8, 9 mana minions being played on turn 4 and turn 6, and I mean it's kind of silly at times. But yeah,
Druid, a lot of cards are good in the Druid class because of mana cheating.
yes.
This one is certainly not the exception. This one is certainly very good at mana cheating.
I mean, this was supposed to be more of like a deck building type of card, right? Like you would have to include cards that have a 1 attack, a 2 attack, a 3 attack, and they're supposed to be on the smaller side. But unfortunately, we have these awesome cards that have like 3 attack, like Void Lord, and we're seeing that type of thing. Other like
it's also the Reddit deck, right? Or the 4chan deck.
Wait, which one?
This post on Hearthstone that Kalento was playing this deck with like 2 Tar Lords, the 111 taunt guy.
Yep.
Whatever, just to get people to craft it. And like in the description of the deck, it just says, always hard mulligan for Bring It On against aggro, and always hard mulligan for Master Oakheart against control.
Oh my god.
Half the comments are just like, Kalento did not play this deck, and the other half is like, really? Bring it on in your opening hand.
Oh,
Great.
man.
I've ever seen.
I wouldn't try that. Exactly. No, but this is definitely it's been an interesting card, at least the first week. We mentioned Void Lord many times now. I mean, is Void Lord one of the most powerful cards in the game? I mean, at least in this expansion. Y'all's opinions?
So, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's no question, right? It's like
this expansion. I mean, they'll rarely release like silence or effects to get around huge taunts like this.
Mm-hmm.
So this expansion, the fact that we didn't get a lot of tools like that, it means that aggro decks have to run something like Spellbreaker just to deal with this, right? Or rogues have to include Sap again, things like that. And overall,
point, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of like once you get cheat out Void Lord, your win rate just skyrockets. You go Lackey Void Lord, and the game's just over. Doesn't really matter how much damage you took to begin with, because Warlock did get a lot of healing on top of everything else.
The assessment that the card's strong, like, yeah, of course it's strong, right? It's a 9-drop, right? So Aster is also strong, but like, it's like any big taunt is strong. Is the fact that it's consistently on the board on turn 5 or 6 that makes it powerful. It's just the whole big druid thing of like, whatever you cheese out as fast as possible. When you're mana cheating, things become incredibly powerful. Like if this is like cast on turn 9 consistently, hard. Like,
yeah.
It's like fine at power level, but it's like, it's not unfair, right? It's like if you played on turn 9, then all of a sudden my Spellbreaker in my hands actually like, I can go Spellbreaker and have 5 mana to do something else. But when I Spellbreaker your thing, I only have 2 mana left, and then you have a 3/9 that eats my 4/3, and I still fucking lose. Like, I'm dead. It's over. Even when I do have the Spellbreaker. It's just the whole mana cheating thing is freaking unfair. I mean,
there is
the problem
no
is the 2/2 guy that gives you this.
Yeah, there's no way to really counter this card if it comes out on 5. I mean, what could you do? You could silence for 0 and maybe Black Knight on 6 or something. Like, no, you can't even Black Knight the guy because he's silenced, right? So it's like, I don't even know. Like, what can you do against this guy? Like, to even.
That's why I think like Sap's gonna come back at some point. It's just like there's been some miracle rogues like relying on like that.
Yeah, Sap would. That's true. Sap works.
Completely unfair against this card. Like it blows you out because you need a 2-card combo to get this guy out on 6, and then you sap it and you can't play it for 3 more turns. So like,
yeah. I mean, you can't even. Yeah, you can't.
You want to play your aggro deck,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's even so effective that generally an aggro deck will wait for you to proc the Death Rattle and silence the taunt, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of aggro decks now are forced to just silence the 2/2 because even if you silence the 3/9, the 3/9 is still doing so much work on the board that you're forced to take your tempo turn the turn that it's played, right?
Right.
As like Rogue, for example, you're actually like not really an aggro deck. Like by turn 5, your opponent's consistently in the mid-20s in terms of health total. The 3/9 is going to get 3/9 is going to kill the next 3 minions you play.
It's true. That's true, and that's we're not even talking about like things you can potentially do too. Like, it's got Nizar synergy, it's got Gul'dan synergy too. So I mean, we're talking like Void Lords for days, in some of these decks. So
individually, like that's the question. Like individually, the card's like fine, but the amount of synergy it's got within Control Warlock is just absurd. The reviving the weapon, even right. Like Spellbreaker, Sap, these are cards coming back into the meta for sure.
Yeah.
Acidic Swamp Ooze, it's going to have to be in, or Parison Jones. One kind of weapon destruction is got to be present.
I hope it's not quite like that, because that sucks. That's like 2 slots automatically have to be filled. I mean, at least 2 slots. I mean, hell no. I mean, maybe more. Shit. It's like
it's a temporary measure that corrects over a long run, right? Because it's just like the Doomguard deck only works because of the weapon, but it's like if I know like all my opponents are gonna have like Harrison Jones in their deck, I'm gonna do nothing, make them draw 3 cards. I'm gonna lose every time.
Right.
Right. So then I'm gonna have to correct by not playing this anymore. And then it's just like, well, I can still run this powerful combo, so it all keeps itself in check. There's nothing wrong with hate cards like that. It's just like weapon destruction is there so that these weapons don't. Like it's compared to like, for example, the last thing we got, right? This set we got a legendary weapon. The last set we got DKs. DKs there was no counterplay, and it is just bad.
Oh, okay. So you actually like the fact. Okay, I see what you mean by that.
Oh, yes, counterplay is amazing.
Well, counterplay is amazing, but it's just like for me, it's like when the new kind of card like a weapon is mostly agreed play. It's going to turn into agreed play, right? Because I think the baseline will be just to like preventative measures. And then like maybe there is a little bit lull, or maybe in events, people try to sneak by without, the ooze because of whatever the meta looks like going into it. But for the most part, people are just gonna, if any of the weapons become super huge, or any of the top decks have a weapon like that, it's just gonna become baseline, right? And I don't know, I've never loved that, like just having something where it's just like, okay, you have to run a BGH, or you just have to run an ooze, or you have to, that sort of thing.
I mean, you're getting into kind of dangerous territory here, like. Blizzard, I think this expansion they experimented with something different, which was like Kingsbane having a death rattle on a weapon, Valinor having a death rattle on a weapon.
Yeah.
The thing is, you can't silence a weapon. You can destroy it, but if it has a death rattle, it's coming back every time, right?
Yeah,
so when you play control against that kind of feel, it's also kind of a dangerous territory, right? You can't silence the minion that Valinor buffs, but if you're playing some kind of weird Valinor deck where you're running the Serenite Chain Gangs and the Doppelgangsters, like you can't deal with that. You can't silence all those minions.
That sounds fun.
Right, so when are we coming out with a card that we can steal? Like we can actually steal the opponent's currently armed weapon.
I think it's like a funny scenario, but Blizzard, this is like their first time making the weapon death rattle, and the fact that you can't silence that is like a really dangerous territory. So I think like they're experimenting with it right now. But there's a chance that like we don't see weapons like with death rattles again. But there's a chance that they like find a good way to balance this, because I mean later on like Kingsbane in a control meta is just absolutely insane, right? And Valinor in a control meta, the same kind of feeling. If you're playing any slow decks, those kind of effects can easily be abused to overrun you.
But saying tentacles was never good though. Tentacles.
But
I know, I'm just kidding. Valinor's like a million times better than Tentacles. So, yeah.
But still, like that's only like two of the 9 that are like problematic in terms of like game design. But like, I think the weapons are just good, and just like having shouldn't keep it in check. Just naturally corrects the problem if it ever is a problem.
Yeah.
Well, compared to like the last thing they gave us, like I was saying, was like the DKs. And it's just like, oh, you Anduin, I concede.
Well, Anduin would see. That's the thing.
Malfurion, I concede. Gul'dan, I concede.
Well, I hate that the DKs, like the power of that and everything was measured just purely because of like Anduin is just. I think Anduin was just. If it wasn't because of Raza, Anduin would not be such a a big discussion point. It would actually just been fine, right? I guess Gul'dan, I mean, you can say Gul'dan has like crazy amounts of power, but all the rest of the DKs, I think were like great. They were well designed, like it wasn't too powerful in my mind, and it's just Anduin was paired up with Raza and it just turned into this deck that, oppressed the meta, which kind of sucked.
I just like Regina and the Warlock Control Warlock Mirror happened a few times. I coached one of my teammates, Doc Pone, on how to play the Warlock Mirror. It's just like, pitch all your cards for Gul'dan, right? Don't light tap on 2 because the game is over. Sure, it's just over. You don't have to do anything because a card is in your starting hand, you just win. So it's like, you compare that with like the counterplay of having like a Harrison's, like, these weapons are cool. They're great cards, and there's counterplay to them, so they can never go and play. They can't ever be too much of a problem, really. So it's like, I think it's like completely wonderful, all these cards.
Okay, fair enough. What about Priest or Dragon Priest, guys? Like, Dragon Priest was like one of the things that people were just defaulting as, oh, this is gonna be crazy awesome. It's gonna like totally be top tier deck right out the bat. I mean, so far we're just seeing the same Highlander Priest being played, and I haven't seen many Dragon Priests or heard that many doing super well. So where are we with Dragon Priests?
Dragon Priest has the highest win rate on ladder at the moment.
Oh, does it? Okay, I just haven't. I haven't seen it.
Let me send you a deck list because it does have a lot of power at the moment, and it's a list that Satellite. He's a Japanese streamer. He came up with this list, and
cool.
It's been a list that he's been just grinding out top 10 legend, playing it consistently there for the past 2 or 3 streams. And a lot of other people have taken notice, and it's just a deck that's been doing extremely well in terms of the ladder game at the moment. And it has so much high roll potential because the real power spike is, I mean, yes, it's running creepers, it's running bone mares, but it's making a really, really powerful use of the Spiteful Summoner on turn 6. And you're only putting in mind controls and free from ambers. And mind control actually becomes somewhat playable at this point because, taking a Void Lord is such a big deal as well.
Okay, let's take a look at this. This is a really small list. Wow, it's like
I think this deck is rubbish, but
okay, let's kind of just go through it real quick. So Northshire Clerics, Nether Spites, a Shadow Ascendants, Curious Glimmerroot, a Talon Priest, Tar Creeper, Duskbreaker, Twilight Drake, Scalebane, Operative, Spiteful Summoner, Bone Mare, Creeper, Free from Amber, Grand Archivist, and Mind Control. So there's only 16 cards in this deck, but bunch of doubles here. Why do you think it's rubbish, Purple?
I mean, it loses very hard to some early game counterplay. Like, for example, doesn't have an answer for a Doomsayer. There's going to be some loss percentages right there. There's just something.
Because there's no Shadow Word, right? Yeah.
Looking at a deck like Control Warlock, this deck does not have a freaking chance in hell to be Control Warlock because you have to go for the Void Lords the hard way. You don't run Shadow Word Bait, you don't run Silence. You got to put 18 into it. So
you can steal it by turn 9 eventually, but yeah.
Yeah, like the deck's trying to do some aggressive things, and like a deck like, for example, like a slower Druid, a Shade Druid, a big Druid, it's going to get farmed by this. But like, it's got its applications, but it's got a lot of downside in a lot of matchups. And just because you run 2 copies of Dustbreaker does not mean you beat aggro. Because it turns out Shadow Word Pain's really good against War Leader. Like, just having one answer for a War Leader in your deck, it can degenerate. Like, just plus 2 health buffs on Murlocs. There's just a whole bunch of ways to play around and deal 3 damage. Like, Hellfire is not a god card against aggro. In fact, it was being cut from Control Warlock, and Hellfire is only being played again because of the spellstone. Like, can't really beat aggro, I don't think. Doesn't beat the control deck in the meta. I'm gonna guess you probably lose to Razaka's Priest too.
Purple, you've got 4 Dustbreakers in there with the Historians.
3.
And like in terms of a power spike for mid-range deck, I think Spiteful Summoner using that card successfully is such a huge deal as well. Like,
I tried
the whole point of
and then
the reckoning of like Dragon Priest, right, was that it would be like a deck that could beat out Razaka's Priest because they're immune to Dragonfire Potion. Deathing one thing is not enough, and there's just like a lot of mid-range pressure. And Dustbreaker being in a set is like, okay, we have a good chance against aggro as well, which was kind of the lacking part for Dragon Priest at the moment, is it would just keel over to aggro. So you got some percentages on both sides, which is why like it's playable at the moment. but like you're right, it's losing to Doomsayer a lot of the time. Control Warlock, going through Void Lord the hard way is never fun. It does have a lot of weaknesses, but in terms of what you expected from Dragon Priest out of the expansion, I think this is one of the lists that kind of does that well.
Okay. I mean, how many dragons are there? I mean, there's 7. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's definitely on the low slide.
Yeah. I mean,
optimal for Dragon Priest is 9. If you're running Historian, you want 9 in your deck, because just for consistency. Because if you need it starting turn 2, right? So if you're playing like a dragon deck where your first like activator is just like operative, for example, it's like we don't have Historian, and going down to like 7 or even 6 is fine. But like if you're playing Netherspite Historian, you probably want closer to 9. If you're playing such a small amount, basically it ends up being pretty bad on your mulligans, because it's just like, well, all of a sudden I gotta keep like the most expensive dragon just to like, because like I need it for synergies, and that tends to make it that you end up with below average draws overall. So like,
right, but we're in a meta where like Primordial Drake is just terrible, so there's like no justification for going a lot taller.
It's only 5 mana, right? Like the worst that you have to keep, it's like a 5 mana minion, which isn't that bad.
I personally think that like Twilight Drake is like very good in the stack. Anyways,
do you think you should run 2 of them?
Twilight Drake's the 2 of probably in this deck. It's just the double Corridor Creeper, double Bone Mirror is taking up a lot of space in the deck, right?
Yeah, I could see like cutting a Bone Mirror, because like your swing turn is Spiteful Summoner on 6 anyway, right? And the creepers can be played whenever. Yeah, that makes some sense.
It's very clever though with Spiteful Summoner. For those of you listening, Spiteful Summoner is the one where 6 mana 4/4 battlecry reveal a spell from your deck, summon a random minion with the same cost. And with this deck, if I just read out, there's really only 4 spells, and they're all 8 mana and 10 mana. So you're gonna win this joust with spell costs, and you're gonna be getting something big. So it's very, very clever from that standpoint. Bone Mirror.
I tried this whole concept with Zoo, and you just run 2 copies of Doom. That was all right. Tried it in Paladin, you run like Dinocides and Steeds. So like,
yeah, Dinocides.
Unfortunately, like in like Zoo and Murloc Paladin, you don't actually want to be running like any spells anyway.
Right.
While like Dragon Priest has like the dismerit that like you actually have some spells in comparison, right?
Yeah.
But like I could even see this guy in like to an extent, but like with Sprint and just cut backstab. But
okay, yeah.
The card's power level is very unfair.
Bone Mirror, you were talking about dropping a Bone Mirror, right? Where is Bone Mirror now? Like, we went from Bone Mirror being like in every single deck or tempo deck, just literally being the reason why tempo was good, to now I don't know if we're seeing them as, maybe we're still seeing them in tempo. I just want to get y'all's thoughts on like where you think Bone Mirror's place is right now.
Second best card in the game.
Still best card in the game? Okay.
Second best, yeah.
Second.
Wait, what's number 1? Purple?
The Quarter Creeper.
Okay,
right?
Quarter Creeper.
I think that's the first.
Yeah. 0 mana cards are generally, very, very, very good in this game. Which leads us to something that I know, saying you had some thoughts on, which was, Quarter Creeper is, I don't know what, the 3rd card that we've had. I think just generally that gets like a decrease in cost to the point where it's typically played with 0. From a design standpoint, I think every time it's happened, actually the last one, the ghoul hasn't been played that much, right? Was it a ghoul? Is it a happy ghoul? Is that the one that was
Well, that's because that's the reason. The reason for that is because priest can't use the card, right?
Okay, sure. Because it's the whole heal thing. But in terms of things from below, and then now we've seen with Corridor, these were like no-brainer, just good cards, right? In terms of this type of tempo decks and things like that. What do you think about the design for that? Saying
stop.
Okay, Purple. Stop.
Please.
Stop. No. Yeah, exactly.
I think Reynad's argument for the patches is actually very, very key. It seems like such a small thing that patches and Creeper are that related, but when patches and whatever part you're playing can kill off another minion, you do just kind of reduce Quarter Creeper coming out by a turn. And coming out by a turn is such a huge deal between turn 3 and turn 4. Oftentimes that means creeper is being left unchecked, and the ability for it to be a 5/5 while you're developing a wide board means that it's harder for control decks to punish your wide board because they can't deal with going wide and going tall that early on. So the fact that it's a 5/5, the stat line is absolutely insane for avoiding early game AoE. Like previous cards, I think there was something like Volcanic Drake that was a 6/4. It was more aggressively statted, and it didn't retain its buffs after the turn, so you had to set it up a little bit harder.
Yeah, that's right.
And on top of that, it wasn't that strong against AoE to begin with. The creeper stat line was just absolutely insane, and the fact that it keeps on retaining everything in your hand means that you just keep it off the mulligan. You know, it's such a strong backup plan for your board getting wiped or to secure your board in the early game.
I'd like to elaborate a tiny bit on that. It's not just that your patches reduces the card cost by a turn or one, right? It's also that your opponent also plays patches and there's a second proc.
Yeah, seriously.
And then it's 0 on turn 3. Exactly. And then like, the correlation between patches and creeper is pretty cool, but like then you throw in Prince into the equation, and Jesus, this is starting to be really dumb.
Yeah, I mean, Purple, you're talking about those games where when both players have patches, it's whoever has the creeper that wins, right? Because if your opponent doesn't have it, what can you do? Like, I know you're insanely good at card reading, and I've seen like some aggressive mirrors where I have this feeling that they have creeper because their early turns haven't been that strong, and they've kept like 1 or 2 cards in the opening hand. Am I supposed to not kill your stuff? Am I supposed to not play my patches?
No, you can't just not do that, right? Because like it just like there's like, oh, you're not going to kill me in my patches? Cool, I'll play like Captain and Cold-Blood. Like go screw yourself. There's other cards in my hand besides creeper. You got to kill my guy or you die, right? Like minion combat, minions have to die.
I mean, the only scenario I think where there is some counterplay is where you're priest and your opponent has had a weak aggressive start, and you're just saying, I'll take some chip damage and I'll kill his minions on a turn where I can deal with quarter creeper, right? I can take some damage now, and then I have this read that creeper's in the hand, so I can set up killing minions before Dragonfire or something like that. So I take a little bit more chip damage. But like,
I think
even
the
then, like, you have to get
part of what you're
right?
saying right now is play priest. That's just brilliant.
Yeah.
That's just brilliant.
I mean, it's one of the only classes that can kind of take a passive stance against creeper and have that be successful.
Well, I mean, is the issue with creeper because of the early turn that you can play it in, or is it just a general issue? Because I don't know. Let's just say they decide to nerf it and make it 10 mana. You know, like is that the kind of thing that they should do, or you just don't like it? Period. Like, just there's nothing about it that you like, and not even the fact that you can play a 5/5 or 0 even late in games.
I'd be opposed to the design if it was like a 10 mana card with the same effect, because so swingy when it does end up costing 0. Cards that end up costing 0 are just play against, and the fact that you have to play the card yourself, it just is just I know you're playing aggro mirrors and you're just like, whoever draws the card is just going to win every single game basically. Like, or you have to play a deck that can beat it, which is Warlock and Priest, and that just like kind of limits what you can actually do in the game. Just as anything that costs 0 is just inherently very powerful. Yeah.
So hopefully they'll.
I think Purple's scenario is the best. It's just that when you both have the patches, you're both trading early game. The person who has creeper and plays it, and the other person doesn't. I mean, you've just gone and turned that matchup into such a favorable, right? By playing this cheaper 5/5 for tempo.
It's not just that. Even if you both have it, right? Who's going to win that case thing? Obviously, the person who's first.
Yeah, exactly. It's like having a Van Cleef that doesn't cost
already like an aggro mirror, like going second is just already a death sentence. You go aggro creeper to that, it's just like you're on suicide alert, dude. I have coin and aggro mirror. Oh, I'm down to like 11% win rate.
Right. Okay, well, let's talk about some dungeon runs. But before that, I want to give just take some time to give some shout outs to some of the folks that support the show. Obviously, that's our patrons, and if you're interested in that, go to patreon.com/valuetown. And one quick thing about Patreon, guys, I know they announced like this change in fees, and people are really pissed off about it. And unfortunately, or at least fortunately, they decided to kind of go back on that. So they're actually not going to be rolling out these different changes to their fee system. Unfortunately, a lot of people that have Patreons, lost a lot of people because of that, and including ours too. So just want to let the folks that listen to the show that literally left because of that. They definitely changed it back, and hopefully you guys will come back. But I do want to give a shout out to the existing patrons, which are our legendary producers Mike T, Romy S, as well as Brandon P, Raydan, Bob K, Graham S, Andrew R, Cameron M, Paul H, Vincent G, Dan S, Danny H, just to name a few. Thanks so much for supporting us, guys. Like, you guys are the reason why we're able to do the show each week, and hopefully you guys can continue to support us. Okay, well, why don't we talk about Dungeon Run some? I know, Purple, you haven't played any, just you haven't had any time, but Saiyan, you got a chance to do some runs? Have you won the $30,000 yet, or not? Are you almost there, or no?
It's getting more and more ridiculous as we go on, because the difference between like a perfect run and a bad run is, I mean, you can have like a very, very good strategy, right? Like you get this Warlock deck. I saw Muzzy playing earlier, and he's got the minions that cost more than 5 or reduced to 5. He's playing Warlock, drafted like 6 Molten Giants, right? So then they cost 5 at the start, and now you're tapping and you get all your Molten Giants out by like turn 3 or 4. Right. It's absolutely insane. You should be winning your run with that, right? But he gets to the final boss, King Toggle Woggle, and he discovers this spell, which is like silence all of your opponent's minions and destroy all of them. And Muzzy has this board of like 5 giants, like no steam left in hand. He's high rolled the boss until that point. All the other 7 bosses was just a walk in the park, right? And then you get like the worst possible RNG discover against you, and you lost the final boss. You got to start all over again. And the chance of you drafting that sick deck with the 6 Molten Giants and reducing them to 5 at the start, it's not going to happen again.
But it's so one opportunity.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Purple?
Yeah, it's one opportunity.
It's one opportunity. Yeah, I mean, it is like this. There's definitely a lot of RNG aspect.
If you lose, you just like restart immediately and just like
start over. Yeah,
start over again. Yeah, and for those of you wondering when we're talking about the 30,000, there's a running contest right now for the first 10 days of the expansion to see who can complete the 9 bosses in the dungeon run with the least number of tries. And you can actually go to the subreddit right now, our Hearthstone, and you can see just one of the green link, the green threads at the top. You can actually see like how everybody's doing, and I think Maz is like number 1 right now. I think with 11 or something like that. But anyways,
about that.
What is that? Actually, let me look right now.
When Maz started at like 100 or 110 like challenge in arena, it's just like he would just like.
This is his
fire
cup of tea. This
not do on is a run, start again, and he would just run that every day, all day, every day. So it's like, I'm guessing he's probably doing the same thing. He's got games that he makes. Like he's got a sick work ethic.
Yeah. Oh, actually, Crip's on here too with 12, and Nobbler 214, and some other great players too. So.
Nobbler was messaging me. He ran it in 11 as well, I think.
Oh, how come it's 14? Okay, so maybe it was 11. So the deal is you have to record yourself doing it too. So obviously a lot of people are streaming it. I mean, obviously that's going to be just accessible from a VOD that standpoint. But for the most part, if you're not a streamer, you have to go and record it yourself. So okay, so how does this? So who wins in the end of this? Just there's.
You want to win if you don't get it in 10?
The top 10 are competing, right? You take the 10.
Yeah, I think it's like something like that. Right.
You're going to run again, I think, or something. Or
yeah, I think it's like in a day or something. Yeah, or it's like okay. Let me see, just to get the specifics. Yeah, it looks like the top 10 will compete in the end, and then they will like do the dungeon run, see who can be the most successful. I think in a day. I think that's how it works. Just that day that they decide to do it. But
yeah, if you look to the right there, I think on the taskbar it says Trump is 8 out of 8 at the moment.
No,
so
really?
I remember he was at 6 out of 6, I think, before he ended his stream yesterday.
Trump. And you automatically win if you have a perfect run. Yeah.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I think you automatically win if you do. I could be wrong about that, but I could have sworn I heard Chalky and Muzzy talking about last night that that would make sense. I mean, you get a perfect run, you should win. I mean, that's like that shouldn't be. You should not have to go against these guys that did an 11. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense. It's you actually accomplished what the actual challenge is. So, anyways, this is really fun. This is great. Twitch is obviously holding this up. Rodan, I think, was the mind behind this, of course. So this has been great. I think we should do something like this all the time. I don't know if we'll have the availability of something cool like a dungeon run to happen, But it's really cool that it's like $30,000. I think that's what makes it like even more of a all-encompassing community type of event. So lots of streamers obviously doing it, but getting back to the dungeon runs, which are the bosses that you just hate to face at the end? Saying.
I think it's not too bad when you've run it for a little while and you know what kind of options there are.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of play around it, because if you've drafted like stealth or something and you're really afraid of the sixth boss being the guy who adds charge to everything, because then you're really dead.
Yeah.
You're given the option beforehand to pick maybe like double your health. So you can hedge around that kind of stuff now. If you have an idea of where your weaknesses are and where some of the boss's strong suits are, you kind of play around it a little bit. But again, there is a lot of RNG involved. But if you're making smart decisions and you're given information, you've ran it a little bit, I think you're starting to see where all the strong synergies are, and what things you should be playing around, especially based on how your build goes.
Yeah. Definitely the dark.
Definitely a huge learning experience.
Yeah. It's definitely you have to play a ton just to know it. But yeah, King Toggle, I think King Togwaggle and the Darkness have been the two I've like struggled with a lot. The Darkness is, gosh, man. I think the only time I've ever come close to being the Darkness is when I had it was kind of funny because I was watching Chalky do the same thing. It was when you have the spell that just does 10 damage to somebody until somebody dies. Like you pyroblast them until somebody dies.
A lot of fun.
Dude, yeah, that was the closest I got to being the Darkness so far. And then I
would like that to be introduced to competitive Hearthstone.
Shut up, dude. That would be ridiculous. But I was watching Chalky last night. I don't know if you guys did, and he was, I don't know, maybe on his. I think he had just lost the priest. I can't remember. Anyways, he was like already won like 5 of them or something like that. And he gets down to the Darkness, and he's got like 2 minions on the board. There's 2 minions on the board on both sides, and I believe the Warlock had, or the Darkness had like 9 health. He just had a Power Blast him one time, and he had like 31 health. And he ended up pyroblasting himself 4 times in the face after removing all the minions. Oh, that was so bad. Oh god, that was so awesome. Maybe Darkness had 11 or something like. So he ended up doing it 4 times in his face versus 2 or something like that. But it was so brutal, man. But anyways, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Any class that you think is like let's say somebody's doing it for the first time. Like what do you think is the easiest class?
The easiest class is the ones that have Jade mechanics, because the plan is very simple of drafting Jade and getting the battle cries or the death rattles going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a very powerful way to overwhelm the bosses.
Yeah.
Some of the harder ones are going to be like Warlock and Warrior, where the game plan isn't as apparent, and you do have to rely on more synergies and maybe a bit of a high roll draft and know where those synergies are for you to be able to get to 8 easier.
Yeah, I hear you. Like those triple. When I get those offerings that are triple, like Antonidas or triple, man, I can't help myself. I just have to pick those.
I mean, what you notice is that a lot of the bundles for what you can pick have a really large pool, right? Like the legendary pool is like 20 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Like Warrior has like smash or weapons, and those are still like 15 plus cards. But Jade mechanic, you're offered between 5 or 6 cards maximum, right?
It's the same one.
So if you can keep on picking Jade, it's very, very consistent, and it's very, very powerful if you get the right bonus effect.
Yeah, that's a good point. What's your favorite passive? Here, I'll list out some of the passives here. These are, I feel like these are like the key. Like a lot of your run is just based upon what you get here. And you mentioned the one where your minions cost 5. The Scepter of Summoning one. That one's obviously super great when you can get those giant minions. Or at least offered those giant minions. But I really like Captured Flag too. I think Captured Flag is just generally good. Any of the others surprisingly been good for you?
Justicar is insane in Paladin. What you do is you just draft Justicar's Ring, and you're getting 2 1/1s every turn. You draft as many terms as you can, and just beat everything with that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You ever do anything with Robo the Magi? Spell damage +3 with mages?
You draft Rogue, you draft Fan of Knives, and you draft 2 of those Magi things, and no board ever survives against Fan for 7.
Yeah, nice. That's definitely a good one too. Yeah, I love these, man. These passes are so good. I wonder if ever we'll get that kind of passive thing added to the game.
If you buy enough Tempo Storm card backs, you get +2 spell damage.
Okay, I see how it is. Yeah. Well, Purple, definitely once you get a chance to play, it'll be fun to hear what you think about it.
No, I will not be doing that.
You won't be doing it? God, you're so... What? No fun, dude. Come on.
I mean, you're not really late in terms of the dungeon running because I think Hearthstone just posted some of the more intricate stats on it and things like that. So
yeah,
a lot of what players are figuring out, like I think Noblord, myself, Tic Tac, Active, Aku, we had to make a spreadsheet to figure out like what bosses were doing, things like that, because people hadn't put in the time yet. But now that the info is public, I mean, Hearthstone has done a lot of the work for you already, so catching up isn't too bad. Or even just like playing a dungeon run and browsing through.
You can.
Yes, basically.
You can't net. I mean, you can't actually net deck, but you can at least see what kind of bosses, what kind of percentages that you're looking at for. It's really just the 7th and 8th boss that are like the tough ones. So if you can work your way towards it, build your deck to go against whichever ones seem to be, I don't know, appearing more than not, then that'd be cool. I think my biggest thing is... Go ahead.
How much time does one dungeon run take?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe like 30 minutes, maybe? 20 minutes? 20, 30 minutes, something like that.
For one class, right?
Yeah, one class. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're talking obviously 9 classes, it's going to be like 4 or 5 hours, like 5 hours to be probably more realistic.
That is a lot of time to put towards... almost certain failure.
It's a stream, dude. That's like one of your stream sessions. Like, I'm going to do one dungeon run. And that's like easy, right?
I just want to defile some people and play some Cold Arms.
Oh, God, defile some people. Oh, my God. That just sounds like wrong. But yeah, so anyways, dungeon runs have been awesome. I hope they just continually update this, add more bosses and keep it more relevant, instead of it just basically being something that people just stop playing after a month or two once it's completely figured out. I think it's something that they could easily just add to, right? And obviously people want rewards and stuff for it, but we can just as a community create rewards, like this whole tournament, right? That's a way to essentially just do it. So I think there's a workaround for that. They don't actually have to put in like arena awards and things like that, but overall, yeah, I think this has been one of the best ideas that they've added to the game, and hopefully they keep up with it. All right, well, why don't we go in just whatever time we have left? We got Q&A here. I got a question from Ahmed, and as usual, what do you guys think if Blizzard made an official open tournament day on day 2 of the launch, and then crowned the best deck builder of the expansion? Rewards for deck building and promotes packages. Okay, so I guess his question is like, is there a way to make some kind of event that would be like a deck building reward, like just best deck builder? And then would it be, like, could we do it like as early as day 2? What would it be if it's super early in the expansion?
It's a very, very silly concept because a deck is only relative to a meta, right? And comparing decks and fighting each other is just going to be a clown fest as to who wins because it's
comparing decks and fighting each other just sounds like
by relatively what beats what is going to win, right?
Right.
It's not unless you find a deck that beats everything, in which case you are the best. But that doesn't really.
That's called playing on the ladder, right? That's just basically what that is, right? Just the concept of it. But yeah, I guess just more of an abstract thing is like, is there a way for us to actually have a contest of who's the best deck builder? Could it be just like who uses somebody's deck the most, or I don't know, some kind of something like that.
Sure, Raynad is the greatest.
I mean, streamers hold a lot of that privilege for a beginning expansion. Like Dogs built a pretty good reputation of trying a lot of different stuff the first few days, and being able to hone in on what's good and what's not.
Yeah. Maybe it could be just, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty tough. It could be one of those things where it's just there's a bunch of decks that are just listed as candidates, and then you just vote on it. I mean, obviously those decks were created by somebody, and you could try to figure out that, and that would kind of be the deck building type,
You could, as an alternative, instead of building a deck post meta, I think you could reward people for being the best at predicting how the cards go in a set. I mean, that's a skill that is akin to deck building. Definitely includes some of the skills in the deck building set.
Yeah.
So like, people have predictions on what the set's going to look like, and then in 2 or 3 months, you can get a huge Reddit post of Reddit voters and things like that to find what the average of what the cards community thinks are, and whoever was closest to that could be crowned something like that.
Okay.
There are statistical ways to like prove how good you are at predicting a meta or creating.
Doesn't have to be a standardization on how you do reviews at that point, but yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Right. But I mean, the whole Reddit thing is kind of convoluted, but
right.
there's maybe a more statistical way to see how cards fare than that. Like maybe pull data from HS Replay or something like that.
Yeah, HS Replay clearly has the stats there, so or maybe Blizzard could share some of that. That'd be nice. Okay, yeah, I think those are pretty good ideas. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, Trump has these videos now where he's reviewing himself doing reviews. He's got the triple, quadruple Trump reviewing himself. It's pretty awesome. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for today's show. I mean, it's been a solid amount of things that we talked about. Awesome to have you guys here. It's been a while since we had you here, Purple. Saiyan was on maybe like a month or two ago, but
been a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years. Has it really been a couple of years? Oh my God.
That's 2017. I think I was on the show in 2015.
Oh my God, that's so wrong. Well, you took a year off pretty much. Like I don't know where, like hiding from us. So, and then I was gone
a year off. Purple's going to the World Championship.
I know. Now he's going to the World Championship. So it's he's been traveling all over the place lately. So, but yeah, definitely be awesome to have you on, especially after you win. Like in January. So you'd be the first person to talk to the world champion here. But
come
yeah,
back and make fun of saying for being $100 gamer.
He's not a $100 gamer anymore. He's a $42.50, or at least something in that 3,000, 4,000 range now. So
my paycheck has been 10 times raised this year.
Awesome. But Purple, you want to do some shout outs before you take off?
Team Gamers Origin, entering my third year with them.
Nice.
Orange is pretty cool. Taught me a bit about hairstyle while I was in China. We had some like off time, Orange on Party Good Guy.
Our Party Good Guy. Okay, awesome. Yes, we know Orange is a good guy. Just saying. You have any shout outs you want to do?
Shout outs to Muzzy for allowing Tempo Storm to join him in the 2018 year. So I think we're looking pretty solid for the whole team aspect of things. I'm very excited about the year to come.
Yeah.
Open the checkbook and get carried by Muzzy. Well done, Tempo.
Open the checkbook. No, that's gonna be definitely a good ad especially if you want to finish in that top 10. So yeah, congrats to Muzzy and breaking up the LOL boys, man. I don't know about that. We'll see what happens with the other guys. But for me, just thanking all of you guys for watching the show today, and obviously you two for doing the show. Jackie and Allie are hopefully gonna be back next week. But Seat Story is this weekend. Definitely go and check that out. Take always does an awesome job with Seat Story, and all your favorite players and streamers. At least some of them will be there for sure. And you can find the VOD for this show on youtube.com/ChanManV as always. Find the show on iTunes and Google Play and SoundCloud.com/ChanManV also. So, but that's going to be it for episode 149 of Value Town. So for Just Saying, Purple, and myself, ChanManV, I'll see you next week.
You crave the love I gave.